What happens when a tattered veteran is humiliated and thrown out of a hotel for a simple act of kindness? You won't believe how his quiet strength turns the tables in a way that leaves everyone speechless. I'm Samuel Carter, a 72-year-old Vietnam vet, and I've seen my share of hard days. But nothing prepared me for the gut punch I got at the Willow Inn that crisp October morning in Willow Creek. The sun was just climbing over the pines, painting the town square in gold, and I was feeling lighter than I had in months. In my hand was a small bouquet of wildflowers, daisies and clover I'd picked along the highway. They were for Clara, the sweet old gal at the hotel desk who'd been slipping me extra coffee during my monthly trips to town for VA appointments. Her kindness was a rare warmth in my life, and I figured those flowers might bring a smile to her lined face. My boots scuffed the pavement as I limped toward the hotel, my bad leg, a souvenir from a shrapnel blast in '68, aching from the cold. My jacket was threadbare, sure, but I'd scrubbed my face clean and tucked my dog tags under my shirt, hoping to look halfway decent. The Willow Inn's lobby smelled of fresh coffee and polished wood, with plush chairs and a chandelier that screamed small-town pride. I stepped inside, the glass doors hissing shut behind me, and spotted Clara behind the counter, her gray hair pinned neatly, her eyes tired but kind. I grinned, ready to hand her the flowers, when a sharp voice cut through the air like a bayonet. "What do you think you're doing here?" I turned to see a man in a crisp suit, his name tag reading Harold Vance, manager. He was maybe 40, with a sneer that could curdle milk. His eyes raked over my worn clothes, and I felt every tear in my jacket like it was a mark of shame. "I'm checking in," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Got a reservation, paid online." I held out the flowers, trying to explain. "These are for Clara, just to thank you." Vance didn't even glance at the bouquet. He snatched it from my hand and tossed it into a trash can by the desk, the petals scattering like confetti at a funeral. "We don't take your kind here," he snapped. "This isn't a flop house." The words hit harder than any bullet. My kind. I'd carried a rifle through jungles for this country, watched friends bleed out in the mud, and now I was your kind? Clara gasped, her hands fluttering, but she stayed silent, her eyes darting to Vance like he was a drill sergeant. The lobby wasn't empty. There were guests, a young couple by the coffee station, a businessman tapping at his phone, all staring now. I felt their eyes like spotlights, and my chest tightened with a mix of anger and humiliation. "I paid for my room," I said, my voice low but firm, the kind I used when I had to keep my platoon calm under fire. "I'm a veteran, sir." Vance laughed, a cold barking sound. "Veteran? You look like you crawled out of a ditch. Reservations canceled. Get out or I'm calling the cops." Before I could argue, two security guards, big guys with buzz cuts and radios crackling, flanked me. One grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to bruise. I tried to pull back, my bad leg wobbling, and said, "I just wanted to give her those flowers. Ain't hurting nobody." But Vance waved a hand like he was swatting a fly. "Take him out," he ordered. The guards dragged me toward the doors, my boots scraping the polished floor. My bag, a beat-up canvas sack with my spare shirt, a toothbrush, and a faded photo of my platoon, slipped from my shoulder and hit the ground, spilling open. The photo skidded across the floor and I lunged for it, my heart racing. That picture was all I had left of my brothers from '68. The young couple by the coffee station rushed over, the woman kneeling to help me gather my things. "This isn't right," she whispered, her voice shaking. Her boyfriend glared at Vance, his phone already out recording. The guards shoved me through the doors and I stumbled onto the sidewalk, the cold air biting my face. Behind me I heard Vance mutter, "Keep the riffraff out." I stood there, clutching my bag, my breath coming in short, angry bursts. I'd faced ambushes, lost friends, carried wounds that never healed, and now I was trash to be swept away. The couple slipped outside, pressing a bottle of water into my hand. "We're posting this online," the guy said, his jaw tight. "People need to know." I nodded, too choked up to say much, and limped toward the park down the street, my mind spinning. I wasn't just angry, I was tired, bone-deep tired of being invisible. As I walked, I didn't know that video was already spreading, that folks were starting to talk, that something bigger was brewing. All I knew was the weight of that photo in my pocket, and the sting of being thrown out like I was nothing. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it unfolded. I sat on a worn bench in Willow Creek's Veterans Park, The kind of place where old soldiers like me could blend into the shadows of a bronze statue honoring folks long gone. The air smelled of damp leaves and grilled hot dogs from a family picnic nearby, but my stomach churned with the bitter taste of what happened at the Willow Inn. My hands, calloused from years of gripping rifles and now trembling from the cold, clutched that faded photo of my platoon, my brothers from Vietnam, all gone but never forgotten. I traced their faces, their cocky grins frozen in time, and felt a knot in my chest. I'd survived jungles and bullets, but being tossed out like garbage by that smug hotel manager, Harold Vance, cut deeper than shrapnel. I was Samuel Carter, 72 years old, and I was tired of being invisible, tired of being judged by my ragged jacket instead of my scars. The park wasn't quiet. Kids shouted on a basketball court, their sneakers squeaking, and a young woman with a microphone, Mia Torres, a local reporter, was filming a segment about some community festival. She spotted me, her eyes narrowing like she could smell a story. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, her voice gentle but curious. I shrugged, not in the mood for company, but she sat anyway, her camera guy hovering. "Rough day," she said, nodding at my bag, still dusted with dirt from the hotel sidewalk. I didn't want to talk, but something in her face, maybe the way she didn't look at me like I was trash, loosened my tongue. "Got thrown out of the Willow Inn," I said, my voice low like I was confessing a sin. "Just wanted to give a friend some flowers." I showed her the photo, my finger lingering on my platoon. "These guys, we fought together. I'm the last one left." Mia's eyes softened, but her reporter instincts kicked in. She asked if she could record me, and I nodded, too worn out to care. I told her about Vance, his sneer, the way he tossed my flowers like they were nothing. My voice cracked when I mentioned Clara, the receptionist who'd been kind to me, and how she'd stood there helpless. Mia's camera caught every word, and before I knew it, she was uploading a clip to the internet, tagging the hotel with a caption that called them out. I didn't know it then, but that video was like tossing a match into dry grass. Within an hour, it had thousands of views, comments flooding in from folks, veterans, families, strangers, furious about how I'd been treated. "Disgraceful," one wrote. "This vet deserves respect," said another. I just sat there, staring at the statue, unaware of the storm brewing. Back at the hotel, Vance was pacing in his office, his phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. His corporate bosses were breathing down his neck, demanding answers about the viral video. I heard later he was spitting mad, telling his staff, "That old man's probably faking his service for attention." The nerve of that guy, calling me a liar when I've got scars older than he is. But the town wasn't letting it slide. A veterans group, led by a retired Marine named Carla Ruiz, got wind of the video and showed up outside the Willow Inn, maybe 50 strong, holding signs that read, "Honor our heroes," and "Shame on Willow Inn." Carla was a force, her voice cutting through the crowd like a drill sergeant's, demanding Vance come out and face them. He stayed holed up, barking at security to keep those protesters in line. Things took a nastier turn for me in the park. A cop, Officer Daniels, strutted over, his hand resting on his taser like he was itching to use it. Some shop owner nearby had called, claiming I was loitering. Loitering? I was just sitting, trying to keep my head together. "Move along, old man," Daniels said, his tone dripping with contempt. I stood, my bad leg screaming, and tried to explain. "I'm just resting, officer. I'm a veteran, got nowhere else to go right now." He didn't care, grabbing my arm so hard I nearly dropped my bag again. My heart pounded, not from fear but from the sheer gall of it, another guy in a uniform treating me like dirt. Mia, still nearby, whipped out her phone, live-streaming the whole thing. "This veteran's being harassed for no reason," she said, her voice shaking with anger. The camera caught Daniels' sneer, and that video started spreading too, piling onto the hotel fiasco. The park was getting crowded now, with folks drawn by the noise of the protests down the street. A couple of teenagers from the basketball court wandered over, one whispering, "That's the guy from the video." I didn't know what they meant, but their stares weren't cruel, just curious, maybe even respectful. My chest tightened again, not with anger this time, but with a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Resolve. I'd faced worse than Vance and Daniels in '68. Ambushes, firefights, nights when I thought I wouldn't see dawn. If they thought they could break me, they were dead wrong. I straightened up, ignoring the pain in my leg, and started walking toward the hotel. I didn't know what I'd do when I got there, but I wasn't running. Not this time. This is the culmination. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. I limped toward the Willow Inn, my bad leg throbbing with every step, but my blood was boiling hotter than a Vietnam summer. The streets of Willow Creek were alive with noise, hundreds of voices chanting, signs waving like battle flags outside the hotel. I didn't know it yet, but Mia's live stream and that couple's video from the lobby had blown up, pulling in folks from all over town, veterans, families, even kids holding handmade posters. My heart was pounding, not from fear but from something I hadn't felt since '68, purpose. I'd been thrown out like trash, harassed by a cop, and judged for my ragged clothes, but I wasn't invisible anymore. I was Samuel Carter, and I'd carried my platoon through hell. No smug hotel manager or cocky cop was going to break me. The crowd parted as I reached the hotel, their cheers hitting me like a wave. I froze, my breath catching. There were maybe 100 people, maybe more, chanting "Justice for Samuel" and "Honor our vets." Carla Ruiz, the retired Marine leading the charge, spotted me and grabbed my hand, her grip firm like she was pulling me into formation. "Get up here," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. She led me to a makeshift platform, a couple of crates stacked in the street, where a megaphone waited. Faces stared up at me, some tear-streaked, others angry, all waiting. I wasn't one for speeches, but Carla's nod told me I didn't have a choice. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking as I gripped the megaphone. "I'm Samuel Carter," I started, my voice rough but steady. "I fought for this country, lost brothers in Vietnam. All I wanted today was to give a friend some flowers. Instead, I got thrown out like I was nothing." The crowd went quiet, hanging on every word. My chest tightened as I reached into my jacket, pulling out a small, battered case I hadn't opened in years. My fingers fumbled, but I got it open, revealing my Silver Star medal, its silver gleaming in the afternoon sun. "I earned this saving my platoon in '68, I said, holding it up. Face down gunfire to drag my men to safety. I didn't ask for pity, just a little respect. A gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by applause that shook the street. I saw Clara, the receptionist, in the back, her eyes wet, clapping harder than anyone. But then the hotel doors swung open, and out stormed Harold Vance, his face red, flanked by his security goons. "This is a stunt," he shouted, pointing at me. "He's no hero, just a bum looking for handouts." The crowd booed, their anger like a living thing, but I held my ground, staring Vance down. "This medal says otherwise," I said, my voice cold. "You don't get to judge my service." Before Vance could spit another word, tires screeched, and a black SUV pulled up, its doors emblazoned with a military seal. Out stepped General Margaret Hayes, her uniform crisp, her presence like a grenade in a quiet room. The crowd fell silent as she walked straight to me, her boots clicking on the pavement. "Sergeant Carter," she said, saluting me sharp enough to make my old soldier's heart skip. "Your service is not forgotten." She turned to Vance, her eyes like steel. "You've disgraced this town and every veteran who's fought for it." Vance's mouth opened, then closed, his arrogance crumbling under her gaze. She handed me a letter, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is from Veterans Affairs. You'll have housing, benefits, and support starting today." The crowd erupted, their cheers drowning out Vance's stammered attempt at an apology. I looked at the letter, my hands trembling, not from cold, but from a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'd spent years feeling like my sacrifices didn't matter, but here, now, I wasn't alone. The young couple from the lobby pushed through, the woman hugging me, tears in her eyes. "We shared your story," she said. "It's everywhere." Mia, still filming, caught it all, her live stream now pulling in viewers nationwide. I saw news vans pulling up, their cameras flashing, and I knew this wasn't just about me. It was about every vet who'd ever been pushed aside. Vance slunk back into the hotel, but word came later that corporate fired him that night, the Willow Inn issuing a public apology and pledging to fund veteran programs. I stood there, the Silver Star still in my hand, feeling taller than I had in decades. I walked to the edge of the crowd where a small memorial stood for local soldiers. I set my platoon photo there, whispering, "For you, brothers." Clara found me, her voice shaky. "I'm so sorry, Samuel. I should have spoken up." I just smiled, handing her a single daisy I'd kept in my pocket. "You're doing it now," I said. As the crowd thinned, I saw Vance across the street, alone, watching the news on his phone. His face wasn't angry anymore, just empty, like he was seeing his mistakes for the first time. I didn't need his regret. I had my dignity back, and that was enough.